Hi, and welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, Alissa Bukhari, the consultress, and I am bringing you conversations from the forefront of innovation and entrepreneurship in this age of disruption where there is nothing that is normal. Everything is new and up for review. I have the pleasure of broadcasting to you every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So don't forget to click like, subscribe, and get the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. You won't want to miss these conversations. Today, I have with me Mr. John Hetherington. Welcome to Rise and Shine.
Hey, Alissa. Good morning. Good to be here.
Good to be here with you. We met in one of these similar formats in a virtual networking room, and I thought, this guy's from the UK. And we had a follow-up conversation, and that's not true anymore, is it?
It's true. My accent gives me away because although I live in Canada, I was born, grew up in the UK, United Kingdom. I'm only in London, and yeah, it was quite the journey getting to Canada, and that's actually what kicked off a big life learning for me, and ultimately my business of We Deliver Your Vision, because you're having a vision to move country was very
Oh,
strong at the beginning. That's
yeah.
what helped us move.
You know what? So for anybody listening, huge transformations take a lot of guts.
Hmm.
And in order to kind of get those guts ready to take the leap and take that leap of faith and have the courage to do so, you do have to start with a vision. You have to start with what it is possible and then tease out what comes next. So can you describe a little bit about that? First of all, your decision to leave the UK and then go to Canada. So I want to know, what kind of brought that to your purview to begin with.
For sure. Yeah. So the UK is amazing. I love it. I love the history, love the countryside. I miss a lot about the UK, including lots of family and friends. But ever since I was young, I always thought I really want to try living in a different country, try something big and new. And it took a good, well, we left when I was 32. So it took a good, 30 odd years for me to actually realize that goal. But what triggered it was my wife actually had cancer. She had Hodgkin's lymphoma in the UK in 2000. She's a survivor. Knock on wood, she's very strong. But that was like, okay, life's too short. We need to make a change. So after renovating our house, we were in the middle of a house renovation, a big 18-year-old house that had its own challenges as well. But then we said, okay, let's get to Canada. So we had that vision of moving. And I always remember the night before, 'cause I was really excited about this, but I remember the night before and I was physically ill the night of leaving Canada when we're getting the plane the next day because it suddenly dawned on me. I was like, right, we're leaving the country.
Yeah.
But it never looked back. It's been awesome.
And having the fear and the doubt swell up, I've constantly have to remind my clients that in the midst of transformation, once you make a commitment to a vision bigger and altogether transformational than where you are right now, the fear and the
Mm,
doubt shows up as a challenge to the vision, yes, but not for you to take as, oh, I should be afraid of this decision. They're guide markers. They're literally showing you that you are on the right path. If they didn't
mm.
show up, it would not be a stretch.
Yes, which is really interesting. So I've always previously coming to Canada and my business, I've always shied away from that uncomfortableness.
Mm.
And so feeling uncomfortable, I said, well, this is not good. But then to your point, exactly that. I've really embraced the if you're not uncomfortable, you're not learning mantra. And the other big flip for me was around what would your future self say to you? Because since coming to Canada, since we'll talk about the real estate later as well, because I know you have a huge interest in real estate as
Yes,
well.
I do.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that as well. But then since doing it more and more, it becomes easier. There are new problems. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. It becomes easier. And if I think about, I know there's a technique, I can't remember I'll put the link afterwards, but there was a technique around writing a letter from your future self. So this is saying, hey, John, here's where you are in the future. Imagine what you're wearing, doing, who you're seeing, what you're working on, who you're interacting with, what you feel, what your business is like. And then just remind your present self that this is where you can get to if you just get on with it.
Yeah, and it's funny, I just did that very exercise this morning in my journal
Mm,
writing. It is 3 years from now, and these are the
mm.
sights you're seeing, these are the people you're interacting with. And I've been taught that you use all five senses. What are you
Okay.
hearing? And I use
Right.
this to show all five senses: hearing, sight, smell, taste, and touch. So in case you
That's a
have
good one.
any way, a new way to remember it for yourself. But yeah, if you can write that letter and imbue it with all the sense of the senses in it and feeling
Mm.
words, you've got yourself a great map.
Yes, and that's I love that actually because my wife's much more spiritual than I am, and I need to. I'm a IT nerd developer from background. I've worked in IT and technology for 25 years, so I'm an engineer by trade. Um, my wife often mentions, yeah, I'm a bit too robot-like sometimes. So over the last few years, I've really tried to embrace the okay, how can I be more in touch with emotions and spirituality as well? I actually did a walking meditation just late last year for the first time, and that was really really good to do.
Hmm. Yeah, meditation in all its forms can bring such clarity and calmness. I feel like
Mm,
we live in this age where like our attention's being grabbed and our emotions are being hijacked. And, meditation's one of those things that helps you to hear your own signal a little bit clearer. So I want to, ask you, you had this big move. You moved continents.
mm.
Okay. And
Yes.
there's something to be said for the amount of courage that it takes to do that. Tell me about that, the transformation and the transportation of your life. How'd that go?
Yes, I mean it was tough for sure. It was very much a journey. So when we started that intent, that vision of moving country, it was probably 2 years in the making. It started off pretty slow. Lots of inquiries, lots of asking people in my network, our company we worked for, because I was actually working for an Australian company based in the UK. So my first goal was, oh hey, they're in Australia. Let's get to Australia. And it was a lot of false starts, a lot of meeting people that on reflection weren't my putting my best foot forward because I was expecting them to just transfer me,
Mm,
which again was completely unrealistic at the time. So what I realized is you have to ultimately create value for people to work with, people to do things. So over the course of the 2 years, just making more inquiries, being curious, asking questions, and then I actually moved to a work with Ernst and Young at the time in the UK. They had Canada, they have offices all over the world. So then started making connections to the Canadian office, and then started really showing, okay, I can. Here's how I could help you and your clients and your customers in Canada. So creating that value. So again, back to that vision. What can I do to help you? Not about me, not about my goals of getting to Canada. It's more how can I help you? And then, yeah, and then in 2 3 months, it suddenly happened really, really quickly.
yeah, they
And that
say,
include,
what is it, the overnight success? The 10 years that it took for the overnight success to happen. So you've been planning and poking holes and falling short and finding dead ends until the rapid succession then all came together. And then what?
and it was so we had 2 dogs at the time and a cat, my wife, and so we had to pack up from the UK. So it was on reflection, it was actually easier than I thought. Although at the time it was probably quite stressful. But yeah, of course, we had to sell the car, sell the houses. We ended up renting out our house, and then figure out all the logistics of even just how do you get to the airport and leave? Because usually when you go to the airport, you're coming back to something, whereas we're not. So we had to get a rental car, which could take all the pets, pack what you needed in day to day versus the container, which would take 6 weeks to get to the new country. So yeah, lots of planning, and it actually ties into one of the things I do now, which is the daily planning around don't jump into email. Don't let your email because that's other people's agendas. And I know we were chatting about this before the podcast as well, because having that vision first is in what do you want to achieve, then breaking it down into projects, the priorities, the people, and then personal is 5 categories I do every morning just to help me keep on track with that vision and purpose and goals.
Oh, I love that. And I'm going to steal that. I'm going to go back and review this for the 5 categories. But I absolutely agree. My most creative time is waking up in the morning. And
Mm.
if anybody steals that time from me, or I get turned around with another priority, or I pop into that email inbox, or I listen to somebody who's complaining already, it tends to like short circuit the productivity that I can
Oh,
have for the day and my ability to focus. So I take the
mm.
miracle morning approach, and I do
Okay.
nothing for the first hour, and then I meditate, I write, I read, I stretch, and I drink water so that I can be the best me that shows up once I punch my own clock.
Yes, yeah, me too. I'm a morning person. The first thing I do is get up. We have the two dogs, so I'm walking the dogs in whatever temperatures, even when it was down to -20 Fahrenheit the other day. It's the booties and the jackets for the dogs, and I find that time is really good for me just to get out in nature because we're fortunate. We live near a reservoir, so I can walk along the dam and the reservoir and then come back to home. So it's a good half an hour, 40-minute walk in the morning with the dogs, and they'll get me up. They're like, right, let's go. So I've got no excuse.
Yeah, I mean, and talk about creating your vision for your life, for your morning, for your day, for your business. So you're like living what you preach, like you're practicing what you preach.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what it took to get that company established and get your daily routines going now that you've moved continents and countries and pets, etc.? Now you've got this new homeland, and what did it take to be able to establish yourself as a business owner?
Yeah, for sure. So again, it was interesting because when you grow up, you have this idea of a business, and this was on reflection, a big mistake of mine is you set up a business and then expect business to come to you. You know, I'm here, I'm an expert, let's go. And it doesn't work that way at all. I don't think there's very few, and I don't think there are any now that are around. Suddenly business will come knocking through your door. So yeah, the vision is very important to me. That's why I called my company We Deliver Your Vision. That's to help other people realize their visions, and particularly around the technology, because I love technology. I love the magic that technology brings, even though it can be hugely frustrating at times. Technology can be a real pain in your butt sometimes, but it's I love the new invention, the new ways of doing things, even down to how we use AI to capture the transcript for this meeting. It's just taking us in really interesting directions. So my company is helping mainly finance teams and mid-sized companies around how to leverage technology to grow and scale, and ultimately save time and cost and get more time back in your day.
Yeah. And were there any hurdles being in a new government, a new legal structure, anything like that that you had to kind of learn by doing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a lot of everything I knew in the UK. I mean, similar legislation, similar government structure between the UK and Canada, but it's a whole new set of forms. I mean, even just silly things like arriving in in Canada, and I know it's obvious driving on the different side of the road, but I think it's the same in. I think it's different side of the road, but I think in the same in the US. When you park on the side of the road, you need to park in line with traffic, which sounds obvious and makes a lot of sense and is clearly much safer. But in the UK, it doesn't matter which direction you park in on either side of the road. So when I always remember when when I first arrived here, I parked the rented car in what looked like a designated stall, but it was tight, and I was obviously slightly overrunning that stall. So I got a ticket because I thought I wasn't in the stall. So I moved the car into the stall. And then I got another ticket half an hour later because I'd actually parked the car in the wrong direction, but I didn't know that. And there was nothing on the ticket saying that, just says parking infraction. So
Right? Learn
so little
by
things like that.
doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
I
then from there, obviously the business structure and setup and going through the paperwork. Again, it's don't feel you're alone. It's a lot around don't go it alone, don't feel you're alone. There's a lot of people out there who will happily help you. And I like to give help. I know you do as well, which is why you do these podcasts. So just asking around is hugely powerful.
Yeah, and accepting help too. Like the myth of like no man
Mm,
asks for directions, or no, I'll say A type personality really asks for directions. Um, it is incredible once you open up and you ask for what you need, what tends to show up. This happens in our personal relationships. It happens logistically when you're lost in the map, or
mm.
when you're in your business. What is it that you need to be able to thrive? And the helpers show up. If you look for people who are willing to help, you will find them everywhere, because what we look for, we find more of. So what you focus on
Yes.
expands. And going into anything new, moving, when I moved my family from Long Island, New York, into Western Pennsylvania, I had to
Mm,
reestablish all the systems of living, but I didn't know where to start. But I just trusted that what I needed would show up, and it was a little scary because I didn't, when you think you have to have a plan, and you need to know all the particulars before you can get in motion, it's actually upside down. Because to get
yep.
into motion, you need to be willing and able to trust that when you take that next step, the next stair will appear in your staircase. So,
Yes.
it took me a year or so to get the household established and to get our flow and our financials
Right.
reestablished, new bank accounts, etc. But that's not, the logistics aren't the daunting part. It's the making the decision and being willing to step into the unknown.
Yeah. My wife's a great supporter of all this as well, and she always tells me, "I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. It's just going for it, and we'll figure it out. It's unless it's a life or death decision, which is rare. It's it's not going to harm you that much if you make a wrong decision. So figure it out. Let's just go."
Yeah.
And it's interesting when I started our real estate investment in Canada as well. We love the idea of creating homes for people, especially those who can't afford to buy houses. I don't know about your town, but Calgary's a huge immigrant city, and the housing is actually quite expensive, relatively speaking. So rentals are very much in demand. So we wanted to create some suites for new entrants, new immigrants to come in and actually have housing. And like you say, when we're starting to we bought a place, had to renovate it to convert it to suites. And then, as you said, we didn't realize it at the time, but the government actually offered a grant to help with the funding for converting basements to make them legal, because a lot of developments were illegal basements. So we got 70% of our costs paid for a rental suite development to provide housing to new immigrants, but also to make a really nice place to live as opposed to just a basic apartment. So, like you say, when you look out for these things, the right things come along at the right time.
Yeah, and paying it forward, man. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
here you are, an immigrant to a new country going, wow, we see a
Yes.
need here. See a need, fill a need. It's a quote from Robots. My family and I love that movie with Robin Williams as one of the voiceover actors. But seeing that there was a gap in a need in the housing, I find in real estate investing specifically, it's investing in people's living environments, giving them a place from
Mm,
which to thrive. It's like,
yes.
it's one of the most essential services we can provide. So can you speak a little bit to why you chose to invest the way you did and kind of what that strategy is, how it incorporates you and your preferences? Because again, I'm watching you say I was an immigrant and then I provided immigrant housing in the place where I saw there was a need. So how does your real estate investing strategy, how does that reflect who you are?
Yeah, yeah, great point as well. Because when you talk about rental properties and real estate investing, you're always going to hear someone who says, "Oh, it's a nightmare. You have tenants who trash the place, and et cetera, et cetera." And we've never had a bad tenant in was it 17, 18 years? No, longer, 20 years we've been doing this. We've never had a bad tenant. We've had tenants that we've had to work with, but no one's trashed the place, no one's skipped on rent, no one's defaulted. And it all comes down to your point around the values. We provide a nice place to live, so we have quite a few rental properties, but we still manage them mostly ourselves because we like that personal touch, and we like to treat people as we like to be treated. And we don't charge huge rents. We charge average rents, play to not provide a nice place, and then we just find it just works out because we have good tenants, they have a good experience, and we've never had a shortage of tenants either. And what I will just shift slightly, because the other thing is related to this in terms of investment is financing, because I know it's a big challenge is raising capital, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know you had Carol Cho on your podcast a few weeks back, and her philosophy on building a relationship with financing also, I bring that up because that's hugely resonates with me as well, because the only way to get into finance to real estate is to ultimately have to put in capital and then build that financing. So having a good relationship with financials and finances is absolutely key as well.
Man, are you singing my song right now? I mean, when I'm in my consulting mode, not necessarily my philosophical mode, but helping people to understand their strategies around real estate investing, one of the first and most repetitious things that I have my clients do is to survey their financial landscape. Take your
Mm,
financial pulse at
yes.
least once a month by doing a dive into your personal financial statement. What are your assets, your liabilities, your income, and your expenses? If you get a handle on that, just at least once a month, it'll give you awareness around your personal situation. And like you were saying, when it comes to raising capital and getting into deals, there's more financing out there than one is predisposed to think. Like you were saying about
Yes.
not listening to the doom and gloom folks about, oh, rentals and tenants and they're going to trash your place. Some of that thinking is meant literally to just keep out the people who aren't willing to question what is accepted thinking. So
Right.
when you're looking at financing and you're looking at the opportunity to raise capital, perhaps to do a deal or get financing to leverage a loan product, so much more is possible than what we are trained to think. We think, oh, I want to buy $1 million house. I need to have $1
Yeah.
million. Not
Yes.
true.
Right.
Yeah, and it always is in real estate. I find it's creating win-win-win scenarios. So real estate's one of those businesses where you can create relationships and have it be a team sport. And then the
Yes.
financier, the borrower, and the residents are all winning from this
Yep.
collaborative effort, you know. So tell me a little bit about what it took for you to get into some of the deals you've been in.
Yeah, so definitely getting comfortable with debt, and I don't mean unmanageable debt. I mean getting comfortable leveraging debt in the right way. So yeah, totally that is as because you to your point, buying a house for $1 million. Yeah, that was my thinking as well. Where am I going to get the $1 million? And it's like no, it's not that at all. It's about seeing money as a resource that you can leverage to help other people, including yourself. So to your point, I love that. Love your trilogy there of the investor, the owner of the real estate property, and the tenant having that great win-win-win relationship there. Because exactly that. It's if I can leverage money in the right way, we can build a really nice place to live, and then the tenant wins out of that. And back to the question around values is my wife loves designing homes, uh, floor plans and creating good flows of property as you walk through them. I'm more the technician. I'm more the build, the electrics. How are we going to practically make this work? So we make a really good team on that. And then we just love doing it. I love the physicality of buildings. And then to your point, it's being comfortable with manageable debt for sure.
Yeah, debt is not what we are trained to think it is. You know, back
Mm,
when I was growing up, we were told, you know, if you don't have the cash, you shouldn't buy it. And as a
right.
consumer, that actually holds water. Yeah, don't
Mm,
run up your credit card debt with
yes.
frivolous purchases if you don't have the cash right now to buy it. That is a sound principle when you look at it as a consumer. But when you're looking
Mm,
at it as an investor, you really have to think about the cost of entry. What is it going to cost to take down this deal and to purchase it or to acquire it? What is it going to take to rehab it, renovate it, or otherwise hold it? And
mm,
do the analysis. What's the cost benefit? If so
yes.
and so bank is willing to lend me this amount of money at a 3 or a 5 or a 10% interest rate, does that make sense in my deal? And that's where, you know, we hear people say, run the numbers, but being comfortable with debt as a leverageable ability versus a thing that you're buying because you don't have the money and you shouldn't be because you just break that myth. And it's from consumer
Yes.
to investor thinking. And I love that because getting used to having debt, like mortgages or bridge financing in deals, you really have to be like astute as to what is the cost of my money? Because now the
Mm,
cost of your money is an important factor in does the deal make sense or
yes.
not?
Yep.
It's not from an individual household perspective of, you know, what are we consuming and can we afford it? So I love that
Yes.
distinction. Thank you.
Yeah. And and building, you're right about the cash, the value of cash over time as well. Because I used to think that was key, having it in the bank and have your money work for you as well. And I never really studied economics and finance at school, and there's definitely a need to educate more people on real life financing for sure. And my biggest learning on financing in general economics has been in the last 3 years when I've started to get into blockchain and cryptocurrency of all things because I find
Ooh.
I find the whole Bitcoin concept just fascinating and amazing that they've created a cryptocurrency that has no single owner. It's decentralized, and you can buy it and hold it, and it's got trillions of dollars invested in it. And wherever you stand on the whole cryptocurrency thing isn't really the point. The point is, if you look at the technology behind it, how it was invented, and how it was stood up as a concept, is just fascinating, and it opened my mind to whole quantitative easing, time value of money, how to leverage debt. It just opened up that whole fascinating journey for me.
To be continued, man. You are a treasure trove of intellectual inquiry. I just want to put a pin in this conversation for now. I'd love to have you back at some point in the future, but I will say that I have a degree in economics, and yes,
Oh,
cryptocurrency and time value of money, it is such an interesting and cool way to think about investing
mm,
in our money supply. Money as a resource, not
yes,
money as
yes.
a, you know, fiat
Bad
currency
thing.
that everybody thinks
Mm,
about it as, you know?
mm, yeah.
So long story short, I have loved having conversation with you here. I would love to have you back
Yes,
again.
thank you.
What, when people want to get in touch with you, whether it's to talk more about We Deliver Your Vision and how that can apply to their businesses, or just to engage with the fascinating person that is John Hetherington, where
Oh,
can
thank
people find you?
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, so LinkedIn, I post daily on LinkedIn, very active there. Please check me out on LinkedIn, and also go to my website, wedeliveryourvision.com.
Beautiful. And for now, I just want to say thanks a million. Again, these conversations are beautiful for me because it helps me to train my thinking, confirm some of the things that I used to think, but also question some of the truths that I had held at some point to be solid that now are, wait, it's up for renew and review. And that's the essence of the age of disruption that we are in right now. And the reason why I do this at large is allowing these conversations to inform us so that we leave better than we came to it. So, John, thanks a million for being here on Rise and Shine. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. This is really fun. Enjoy it. Chat soon, Alicia.
Sounds good. Bye for now.
Bye for now. See you.
Bye.